So I have to ask you, I got an email from somebody from GTT named Brian.
Brian Bebo?
I didn't get a last name. He just said Brian. So he said for this show, it sounds like we have to go, well, because Rob is Robin-O.
No.
We have to go Steve is Steve-O. Albert is Alberto. Kim is Kim-O. And I'm Ryan-O.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Actually, given that it's St. Patrick's Day today in Newfoundland and Labrador.
That's right.
Maybe we should put it on the other side.
Kim and Albert?
Exactly.
It's Alberto Ruel.
Yeah.
Ruello.
Yeah. Steve O'Barkley.
Ruel.
O'Barkley.
That sounds like a chocolate bar.
Rob Omino.
That's better. It's getting closer to accept.
And of course, Ryan O'Fleury.
Ryan O'Fleury.
Ryan O'Fleury. Yeah, that sounds
That
very...
sounds perfect right there.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
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 My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
Mr. Steve Barclay.
Hello.
And a couple of very special guests. Ryan, you want to do the intros?
We have from the Getting Together with Technology group, we have Albert Ruel and Kim Kilpatrick.
Hi there.
Hello.
And Ryan, so tell us, Ryan, what are we talking about today?
Well, those of you who will be listening to the show later in the week, we just wrapped up CSUN, the Technology Conference in Anaheim this year. And so we're doing a wrap-up. Our own Steve Barclay was down there,
Yes,
as
indeed.
well as Albert and Kim. So we're looking forward to hearing what was shown.
Yeah, that's right. So we haven't really actually even sat down amongst us to talk about what was there with Steve yet. So this is all going to be kind of new for me and Ryan as well.
Yep.
So me and Ryan kind of held down the home front while Steve was out gallivanting.
Oh, I drank a lot.
Did you?
No.
Well, I did.
But I must say, though, Rob, when I rounded the corner in one of the exhibit halls and all of a sudden I heard this, hey, what the heck are you doing here coming out of Steve Barclay's lips? I thought, yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. But yeah, neither one of us knew we were both going to be there. And it was quite a surprise to hear his voice in the room. So, and he did say right away, I wish we could have brought Ryan and Rob. They really need to be at this event as well.
Sure he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
I wouldn't make that up.
No, he did say it.
No, maybe next year.
He guided me around Stevie Wonder.
Oh, nice.
He told me Stevie was there, but he was all surrounded, so we couldn't
Yeah, he
go
always
and
is.
interact with Stevie.
Well,
Yeah, we keep trying to get Stevie on the show one day.
Well, too, the other concern about me and Ryan going is that, we wouldn't want to create any sort of a mob or anything once
AT Banter boys are here.
Oh my God!
Yeah, your fame.
Beatlemania, Robin-O-mania all
right.
over again.
Well, I can tell you, I had on my name tag the entire show that I was CAT/AT Banter.
Oh, did you?
And I didn't get swarmed at all.
Damn it.
As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody commented on it even once.
Oh, no. That's not good.
No.
I was talking to Dave Williams, who was demonstrating for us the Canute reader,
Yep.
and he has a podcast called Braillecast in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I love your podcast. He said, oh my gosh, I didn't think anyone was listening to that.
We get that every week. Yep.
Yeah, you just never know.
Nope.
Yeah, we'll get calls and, they'll be talking business with us, and then all of a sudden they'll also drop in, oh, yeah, incidentally, I really like the podcast, and it's always a shock.
Yep.
Somebody out there is listening.
Yep.
Okay, so Ryan, where do we start? Let's see.
Well,
Why don't, well, I mean, CSUN, for those who don't know,
let's step it back. Okay.
The California State University Northbridge Conference on Disabilities. It's huge. It's one of the biggest conferences on disabilities. It is attended by virtually all of the big companies that do low vision and blindness. There's a lot of stuff there around augmentative communication, a little bit of stuff around physical access, but a lot of that stuff has really started to move over to the ATIA conference in Florida.
Okay.
There's not as much focus on that. So this one is really becoming a lot about low vision and blindness. There's people from all over the world, different manufacturers. There are a bunch of ones that I'd never seen before that were there this year that had not seen in years past. And there's some neat and cool stuff coming out. So maybe the thing to do would be to start off just asking everybody what they saw and what they were impressed by. What's your top pick for CSUN? What's your game-changing tech that you really found outstanding?
Well, for me, I'm not. Everybody in the blindness world and across Canada who knows me knows that I'm not a Braille user, but I will certainly advocate and scream loudly for access to Braille in our school system and for all of us. So I went to that demonstration of the Canute with Kim Kilpatrick and with Rebecca Jackson, who are both avid Braille users and very staunch Braille users. And I absolutely loved sitting back, listening to them go through this Canute Braille reader, multi-line Braille device, because of the possibilities that opened up for them. I was really hugely impressed with that device and all that is possible in the future with that. So that's really the really big uptake that I got from it. If I would have just gone and experienced that device myself, I would have thought, oh, that's really cool. 9 lines of Braille, it's got to be a whole lot better than just 1 line of refreshable Braille. Mm-hmm. But honest to goodness, experiencing it with 2 very avid Braille users made it magical. So that device only, it got way to the top of the list because of how I experienced it. So appreciative.
Kim, how did you find the Braille compared to other Braille displays?
It felt like signage Braille. It was very crisp, very nice. It doesn't squish down like the Piazza Braille. The refresh sounded like an old cash register. When they generate your receipts, it kind of sounded a bit like that. It was so beautiful. I really say it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, because if you've used 1 line of Braille for a long time, you just get used to it. But once you see a calendar where you can skim down the rows of numbers, say 7, 14, 21, 28, like a sighted person would just glance down the rows. There was Braille music with lyrics underneath. There were emojis and maps, and there was books, of course, that. I could see it for spreadsheets or tables, to give you a much better impression of what was there. It was obviously instituted and tested by blind people because it made perfect sense the way it was laid out and how it worked. And it's probably, they hope, going to have a price tag of about $2,000 American, which, if you know your Braille displays for 9 lines of 40 cells, that's pretty remarkable, really. And I hope it does. And I would want one so much, for it's not portable. It's big, and you can carry it around, but it's meant to be a reader, and it's meant to stay, on your desk. Or they're hoping in libraries or, museums or places where people can use it.
So would it be approximately like the size of an iPad?
No, it's a fair bit bigger than that.
Okay.
It's bigger than that. I would say.
That's a good comparison.
What would you say, Steve? How would you say how big?
I'm just trying to think of something to relate it to that's around the same size.
An LP, vinyl record?
It's half again as wide as an iPad, and I think it's about the same height as an iPad. Is that?
No, it's taller. It's considerably
it's taller.
Thicker,
it's taller than an iPad.
Right. It's well, heck, let's just
look it up.
We've got access to the internet here. Let's look up the dimensions.
It really. I was prepared to be impressed by it, but I wasn't prepared to be as impressed as I was. And it would be great if you had those guys, Dave and Ed, on the show. They're really passionate about it, and they're working on it, and it's open source, so people could develop, things for it and apps or things that work with it. It was really interesting too, because they have a vision of it being like a printer. It's not a printer, but you say you're sitting at your desktop and you can't understand a table, and then you send that table to that device and you check it out on there. That's a very innovative idea. Like, a lot of their ideas about it are very innovative too, what they would use it for, but also how you would go about using it.
Yeah, and once people start using it as well, more and more ideas will come to light.
And I think too, they said right now it can't be used, with screen readers as a device, but they don't say that wouldn't be something that could happen in the future. It's just, it wasn't their top priority to get the Braille working and to get the multi-line working.
Right.
And,
yeah, we have had Dave on the show probably last year sometime.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was also surprised. So it was at the APH booth, and this is a little bit controversial, but I was surprised by the lack of the Orbit and the graffiti. So there's something going on there with Orbit Research Group and Transforming Braille Group and whatever's going on that people aren't talking about, but they're obviously fighting or feuding, or something is happening, that those have not materialized the way people had hoped they would. But the Braille Me was there. So, the low-cost things have sort of shifted around a little bit from what we had anticipated they would do.
Yeah, we'll come back to the Orbit and stuff like the Braille Me as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I found the dimensions. It is 14 inches wide by 7 inches deep by 1.5 inches tall. And
1.5 inches tall.
Yeah.
Like thickness.
Thickness, right.
It's quite thick. It's quite thick, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But honest to God, why didn't I think to turn on my Victor Reader Stream and put it on the table when Dave, pulled up the music score and was able to show you, the music on one line, the lyrics on the next, and so on, and the exuberance and the excitement with which that was received by the two testers. Their hands were fighting to get at the Braille.
Can I mention also TMAP? I think it's TMAP. Made out of the Lighthouse for the Blind in San Francisco. They printed off Braille map for you in about 3 minutes. I mean, I don't know what printer. I didn't ask them what printer they were using, but you ask for an address and they look it up on. I think it was on OpenStreetMap, and it was all brailled with the streets around my house. My house was marked as a point, and you can actually buy maps from them. They give you one free so you can see what it's like. But I was really impressed with that. That was an amazing thing. And I know my home area, but it was cool to be able to feel the grid of streets and to have them labeled in Braille and have that. That was another thing that I found very, very interesting.
Cool.
Now, did they give you any idea of when the Canute's going to be available?
It should be going to full production in May.
Okay, so soon.
That's their. They're going to have some earlier units that they'll run off the assembly line, but they're hoping to have full production.
Yeah, I think they're going to do it in stages, Steve. They're going to produce a whack of them that are going to go out to all of the distributors and people who are going to do the demoing of the device, and then the second run will start to go out to actual customers, I think. So
now, is it the price point that really makes this device unique, or is it what it does in and of itself?
Well, both. There's no other multi-line. There's no other multi-line Braille display. And for a price point, if you think about some of the 14-cell piezo displays, are about what, $1,500, Steve? Like the Focus and the Brilliant, and this is 500 or no, it would be more Canadian. So even if it was $1,000 more, I mean that's that's amazing that it's, 360 cells or whatever it is. So, and just to be able to read freely like that on a page and just jump around on the page, and it will leave off everywhere you go. It starts reading where you were. So if you were doing a math or a lyrics or music score, it will stay. It was something that was very amazing.
And let's be really clear, it is not a replacement for the single line refreshable braille display. And they're very, they say that right up front. This is a reader.
Right.
It doesn't have Bluetooth capability. You've got to save your BRF files onto a mem stick or an SD card and poke it in the back. And it's not going to replace single line refreshable. It's not a note taker. It's not portable. It is a reader to give you, a very good access, 9 lines at a time, to braille material, to printed material. But let's not start planning to give away or sell our braille displays. It's not going to do that.
No.
So where do you guys really see this device taking hold? Like what, is it education? Is it recreation? Is it office, or is it pretty much everything?
I think the biggest market for it's probably going to be education, because there's applications where multi-line braille is really important in education, particularly in
Math.
STEM types of stuff. But I also see it being very popular with people who are avid braille readers, because the potential to have books electronically delivered to this device and to be able to read them is pretty cool. And I believe CNIB is going to do a pilot project to try.
I think so. And I think CELA is going to get some or something as well. But the other thing I can see for it too is I can see it being important. And they even mentioned this when we had the demo, that it would be like at libraries or at City Hall or at museums, they would have one there at the desk and they would load it with the exhibits that were around you, or the information for a mall or for a museum. And then you could load it with all of those things and have them around you, read them. Visitors could do it.
You could see something, Rob, like at the CSUN Conference itself, a few of these displays in some strategic places within the building that would say to your right is and to your left is, and just ways to help people navigate a complex environment.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. It's nice to hear excitement over a braille device for once, instead of something like sexy, like a wearable, or something that's a service that you need to subscribe to. I'm not mentioning any names, but
the big thing about this is it's really changing the electronic refreshable braille paradigm. It's bringing it down into a price point that's affordable for a lot more people,
which has been much needed,
which has been hugely needed. But again, the fact that it's multi-line is a big deal. Multi-line displays have been done before, but they've always been the same technology, the piezoelectric technology, and as a result, they've been exponentially more expensive. This is a different braille technology. It uses I believe, a 8-sided wheel with the dots on different sides of the wheel. So it basically has an array, so it'll have 80 discs in a row. So each 2 discs makes up one braille cell.
Right.
And that entire row, when you refresh it, it drops. Every one of the wheels spins to the position it needs to be at to present the next line of braille. And then it raises back up again and locks in place. So it's slow by comparison to piezoelectric braille. But it takes, 7 seconds, was it, to refresh the whole display?
I think so.
I think it was
but also, I was reading a book with it, and he said no braille reader, you'd have to be like the wind to keep up. So you can refresh it at the bottom of a page and start reading. As it refreshes, you can go down. So you wouldn't lose a lot of time if you're reading one long document. You could figure out when to press the button to refresh as you're going along, and it would populate that. So
well, Well, he had you guys try it, Kim. He said, while you're reading the last line of the 9th line, press the refresh button because it starts refreshing at the top, and then whip up there to the top and see if you can race that thing to the bottom.
No, we couldn't.
We couldn't. You'd be able to overtake the refresh rate if you push that button when you're on the last line.
Right.
So reading a book, I don't think would be slower. In fact, I was reading a book on the plane with my one-line Braille display, and I thought it might even be faster just because your hands have more freedom to move. And when you press as you're getting to the last line, if you press forward, by the time you jump up to the top, the first line is at least there. And so I don't think it would slow you down too much in that way. And the loading, I would say, yeah, Steve, it's maybe 7 or 8 seconds loading a new document or file. But I mean, that's nothing, that's fine, I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
What else?
Okay, so Kim, Albert's stolen the Canute on you because that probably would have been.
I'm sorry, Kim.
Pick.
He did. The team app was very interesting, but I also I was really not surprised, but it's kind of amazing that 3 of the biggest spaces in the exhibit hall were taken up with Amazon, Microsoft, and Google.
Yep.
And they all had multiple tables. Sony also had a table there, a big one. But this big 3, and they did workshops all day long. They had rooms for themselves. So that's sort of an indication of the future, the mainstream products becoming into this so much. Because I went over to Microsoft and they wanted to talk to me about Narrator because I use Narrator sometimes, and about Braille support on Narrator. And they were very keen to know what I thought about it and what they could do to improve it. And so really those big 3 are there in the midst of it. And also the lack of Apple it didn't surprise me, but it's almost like they need to go and do that. I think they do, but I don't know whether they will do it. They were missing, and those others were there.
I thought they were there, and I went looking for them and wandered back and forth between the two different display areas, trying to find them, thinking it was me. But yeah, they were no shows.
Yeah, I saw nothing.
I think they did one workshop, but they weren't there en masse.
That's so weird.
And I think that's actually a mistake. I'm shocked that because they have better Braille support than Google does, than Android does still, and I'm surprised they're not sort of crowing that. But I guess it's not a product thing, but I really was. It was great. The one product thing I really liked too, and I don't remember, Steve, you might remember the name of this company. They had a brain there that when you touched it, the plastic brain. You touch a lobe of it and it tells you what that lobe does and what it is. And they make things for museums. They make talking kind of exhibits and very tactile exhibits for museums. And I thought that was very cool, touching the brain and feeling what it did.
I didn't see that.
But that is interesting. I did notice on the Twitter feed that Amazon and Microsoft and Google were there. And let me ask the room this: the people that have gone to CSUN before, have like big companies like that aren't AT companies ever gone to CSUN before, or is this new?
Well, I've seen Apple at the show before. I don't recall seeing the others though. Before.
Yeah,
I think Microsoft and Google have been there the last couple of years at least.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind too. I haven't been for the last few years too.
Sure.
So, right? So
and I've never been before, so we didn't.
My impression, and much to my surprise, because this was my first ever time at CSUN, and I've been so looking forward to going there, and expecting to see exactly what I've heard about all these years. All these assistive technology companies displaying their wares, and it was shocking to me to get there this year, and the 3 biggest displays were Google, Apple, and Microsoft, or not Apple, but Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. So that really shocked me, because now, then I'm even starting to change how I talk about technology, because I'm now starting to refer more to accessible and assistive technology, because I think we're seeing much more in the area of accessible mainstream technology coming out, and we certainly saw it here. VFO or Vispero Group did not have the biggest booth there. It's now the mainstream guys that are sort of taking center stage.
Yeah, that's that's
no.
good.
Vispero had 3 big booths.
Oh, did they? Okay, I didn't go over to theirs.
Yeah, because they're now they had them broken down by Enhanced Vision Systems, Freedom Scientific, and Optelec. So those are all they all had their own separate presence, and they were all the same size. They were pretty big.
Okay.
Now, what kind of stuff did they have at these different booths? The Microsoft, Amazon, and Google.
At Amazon, they had the Fire tablets, and the lady I talked to did know about Voice View and Braille support for that. They had the Cube, I think it's called, the little thing that I didn't really check the Cube, but they had, the Echoes and the Dots, like those, all those ones. But they did seem to send people who knew about accessibility. Microsoft, I didn't look at equipment there or anything there. I was talking to them about how I had bought a Surface Go last summer and how accessible it was right out of the box. And again, they knew they gave me a Braille guide to narrator, so it just tells you how to get started with it and things like that. So I don't know if they had actual technology there. I was just talking to them, and the Google people, I was just talking to them about why their Braille support is not good yet.
Good for you.
And they kept saying, it's coming, which they keep saying.
Yeah.
And also, why isn't Lookout available in Canada, and why are certain things not available? Why isn't, things like that. So I didn't check their tech, but I imagine they had, they had phones and they had, all of their smart speakers and that there. But mostly when I went there, they wanted to talk to blind users about how they felt about their products. So that's what I was doing. And I don't know about you, Albert. You went around there a bit too.
Yeah, and the other thing that Microsoft was focusing on, quite a bit on what seemed to be their Xbox.
Yeah.
And the accessibility of that device.
Yeah, a lot of their games or the consoles now have talking menus, and so they're working quite hard on that.
Yeah, and they were showing their games in use with Switch interfaces as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're certainly seeing a huge transition of, the Echo. Kim mentioned the Cube. Well, that's a device like an Apple TV, but it's the Android side. And, you can sit back on your couch and ask it to do all manner of things. There's smart TVs and, with the Amazon Echo being installed, or the I can't mention her name, but they're putting that kind of technology in all of their devices going forward. So there's a lot of focus on that kind of stuff.
And I was impressed that the people that were at the booths knew, like they didn't just send some token person and they say, oh, well, they said, oh, I program narrator, or I work on, Braille for this or that. You should talk to this person works on. So that impressed me, that the people they sent were not just warm bodies at a booth. I mean, they were involved in it, so they actually knew,
Good.
And that was good.
One of the things that surprised me with all the sessions that were there, I found that, I went to one of the Microsoft sessions, and it was a sales seminar. And didn't learn anything there at that session that I hadn't already read the day before in the articles that I had read. Same with, Google. So I quickly determined that I wasn't going to go back to another one of those commercial sessions, because all of that stuff I'm able to read on their website. But, some of the other sessions like Lighthouse San Francisco and their corporate web testing, client-based web testing stuff, agreements that they've put together. And, there were some really interesting sessions about organizations and businesses out there doing, frontline work around accessibility. And so those were the sessions that I tended to focus on after I saw a couple of the big commercial ones.
Well, it's interesting, Albert, you talking about that, because that's a lot of what I saw on the Twitter feeds following the CSUN hashtag was, businesses and accessibility and inclusivity. There weren't a lot of product announcements, which I was really surprised about. So it's good to see.
Well, I think Outlook or Lookout was probably about the only announcement of anything new that occurred around CSUN, wasn't it?
Well, they announced the Braille Note Touch Plus, I think, there, right? HumanWare did. Okay. So that was announced there, although rumor had it that it was coming, but I don't know that there was, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that there was anything else. And there used to be a lot.
It used to be the place to show new products.
Yeah.
Everybody tried to scramble to get their stuff ready, at least by, at least a prototype for CSUN.
Well, what's been new and revolutionary in the last year or two, right? Like really nothing. All we're seeing now really is a lot of tweaking of what has been.
Yep.
Even some of that, I overheard some people chatting. Can't remember who it was or where it was, but you look at a lot of the products, they've got a folding this or a portable that, but it's got a new name, but it's a rejigged, slightly tweaked thing that 2 years ago was being sold as, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we're seeing now, I think, in assistive tech. We've got all this stuff. It's in our pockets and our backpacks are full of it, but people are tweaking and amalgamating and marrying things together. So, where's the next revolution going to come from? I don't know, but we didn't see it come out this year at CSUN.
I think the apps are what seem to be more revolutionary now in the last little while, right? It's going to be an app of some, like Seeing AI was, or Soundscapes when it comes to Canada, maybe. Lookout probably for Android is going to be pretty interesting. Things are becoming... I think that's it, because it's not the device, like what device do we need now that we don't have? It's more the apps. And I think the next big revolution will be indoor navigation. Once that's sort of better handled or better dealt with, that's my
better solution found.
Yeah, exactly. I think so.
And I think that's my sense. That was just getting around CSUN as a first-time attendee, it was tough. Even trying it with IRA, the feed kept breaking down. They'd be constantly refreshing the video feed, and it would just fall off completely sometimes.
Well,
and even because of the lack of indoor wayfinding technology, I found sometimes that the agents had a heck of a time figuring out where I was in relation to where I wanted to go. Because they couldn't see anything more than what the camera could show them in front of me. And so I found them sending me left at an intersection when it was right I should have gone. Or in the wrong direction altogether.
Yeah, they had no beacons. They had no beacons, which surprised me, and they didn't have even a Braille map. Like, I'm surprised when they had that company that I told you about, the map company, the T Map or whatever. That they didn't make a map of the floor, because if I'd known the layout, I didn't know till the last day that we weren't standing near a wall, that it was actually a temporary wall and there were exhibits on the other side of it. I didn't know that until the last day when I was looking for APH or immersive to see the new buzz clip. And again, I wish I'd had a tactile map of the lay of the land, because I would get so confused by where I was and what was around me.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you're talking about indoor navigation, and, there's companies like iBeacons and Right Here and, these other companies that are working on indoor navigation and tactile maps. I'm surprised that none of this was set up beforehand and sent out to people, or even a map or an app you could install on your phone to have, like Soundscape maybe guide you throughout, or however that would work.
I mean, that would have been ideal.
It certainly was something I was expecting to find at CSUN, and was quite surprised when it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Now, one other quick question. I'm just curious, did IRA have quite a big presence there?
They had, their table was three booths. There were 3, 16, 17, and 18. So they're quite sizable.
There were a lot of people using it. I was seeing people walking around using it all the time.
I can imagine the network congestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. It kept dropping. I wasn't impressed with it. It wouldn't make me subscribe, like for sure not, because they kept dropping. And
well, I think
they weren't,
you can't necessarily
they weren't
blame
knowing
them for
which
that.
way you were going sometimes, like Albert said.
Yeah, because you've got to have the network bandwidth to support that many users using it all the time, and I think everybody was piggybacking off of the CSUN
wireless
Wi-Fi. And
Crash.
There's repeaters all over the place. There's the odd dead spot in that Wi-Fi. That's not an area problem. That's just
not an area
typical
problem.
Wi-Fi problem.
But I did have a good conversation with Jonathan. I talked about the Canadian reality with ERA. I mean, we still don't have an access location anywhere in Canada. The only thing we've seen so far is that CNIB bought a brick of time for their Braille conference last fall. Just earlier in March, we had a transportation forum in New Westminster, and the federal government purchased an IRA location, a brick of time for IRA on the 6th of March, just for that one-day event that they were sponsoring. But other than that, we're not seeing any movement yet, with IRA in Canada. So, they're working hard at it. Marty Watts and the gang there on the sales team are trying. They're talking to BC Ferries. They're talking to YVR. So there is some behind-the-scenes movement going on, but we just haven't seen it come to fruition just yet.
And until there is, I don't think you're going to see very many, like huge numbers of Canadian subscribers.
And I did ask them too about the the whole French language agents and that sort of thing. And, those are a couple of things. Spanish and French are going Spanish first, of course, because it's very much a second language in America. But here in Canada, they're aware of the need for French, and it's on their radar. They're working toward that, looking at that in their recruitment practices, but they don't want to be saying to people that they offer the service in French unless they're going to be able to do a really good and solid and safe job of it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive Technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs,
we are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, Braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
So, Steve, what about you?
Well, I've got to say that Canute would have been at the top of my list as
Already
well.
done. Move on.
So yeah, thanks for stealing that one, Albert. But another one that I saw that really was a standout for me was a printer called the Tactile Plus printer. It's made by a Japanese company. I've forgotten the name of the manufacturer off the top of my head, but we've handled thermal tactile graphic products in the past, and they all basically work off of a pretty simple system. You've got a specialized paper called ammonia capsule paper, which is sold under a few different brand names like PF paper or thermoform paper, or there's various ones. And the way it works is you take the paper and you either draw on it with something that's got carbon in it, like a charcoal pencil or something, or you laser print onto it with a laser printer that has the toner typically has carbon in it, and then you take that paper and you run it through a glorified toaster, and that toaster heats up the paper evenly, and wherever there's carbon on it, it reacts with the ammonia encapsulated in the paper, and it puffs up. Well, the downside to that technology has always been resolution. You can't do really fine resolution with it. And you can't really do Braille all that effectively with it at normal Braille sizes. So this printer, what they're doing is they're using the thermal paper, but they're hitting it directly with a laser. And they have a resolution of 300 dots per inch, which is equivalent to your typical laser printer for printing. Prints a page in about 60 to 110 seconds, depending on the size and how much detail that you've got. Connects by a USB to Windows computers only right now. But you can print directly onto the paper, and they can vary the intensity of the laser, and they actually have 5 different heights, whereas the other tactile stuff is all one height. So it's much higher resolution. You can be much more detailed with tactile graphics. It was really.
Is this something that's at market right now, or is this?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's the name of the company?
Hang on.
Tactile Plus.
Tactile Plus printer.
Because I think I've heard of that.
TactilePlusPrinter.com.
I'm a bit surprised there weren't any 3D printers there, because they're becoming so big.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't see anybody doing 3D printing, and I was at the Canadian Vision Teachers, the Saskatchewan Vision Teachers Conference a few weeks back, and there was a guy out there who typically does the vision teacher shows with a 3D printer, and he's got one of the more popular booths.
Yeah, there were quite a few of these graphics printing kinds of booths at CSUN. I don't know that I saw that specific one you're mentioning.
But yeah, there was also there was View Plus there with their Tiger line of embossers, which do basically graphics using almost a Braille head, but not quite. They can do finer resolution than just Braille. And there were a bunch of people with Braille printers that can do tactile graphics. American Thermoform was there. They had the Reprotronics tactile graphics system. Humanware was there. They've got the PF. So yeah, there were a number of different people, but most of them were using that older technology.
Yeah, but this one was laser based. That sounds really cool.
And that's a little bit of a leap forward for sure.
Yeah, and it's a one-step process instead of a two-step.
I also went to National Braille Press to see the Braille meet, but also the B2G is still there. I noticed they brought it down from $2,200 to $1,100.
Wow.
The Android version is still really old, and I said, well, why don't you update it? They said we never have to update it because we built certain apps. So I don't totally understand the reasoning or whether that's a good thing or not. The quality of that Braille was also very nice. The Braille on it was nice.
Sorry,
I just don't know.
Sorry, this is the Braille Me that you're talking about?
B2G.
No, the B2G.
Oh, B2G. Okay.
Which came out a couple of Steve, do you remember? 3 years ago, maybe?
I'm not familiar with that one, to be honest.
National Braille Press makes it themselves. So it's like a Braille note taker, but it's based on an Android tablet or something.
Oh, is that the one that...
B2G stands for Braille to Go.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's the one that Dean Blasey worked on with them, if I recall.
Yeah, Dean Blasey did work on it. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. They had both of those over there.
Kim, as a Braille reader, what was your impression of the Braille Me? Because that's the new kid on the block.
I felt the Braille itself felt plasticky. I didn't like the feel of its Braille. But I liked that it had cursor routing keys. I didn't get a chance to play with it that much. I sort of prefer the Braille on the Orbit, which I've tested fairly lengthily. But I don't like that the Orbit doesn't have cursor routing keys. So
right.
I just didn't like the quality of the Braille. But the guy at National Braille Press said they're thinking of replacing it with Braille like on the B2G. So that Braille was very nice. If they did actually change the cells to something, I might enjoy it. I just wish we were able to play with these long enough to make a decision. You know, sometimes you can't have them for a while to make a decision. How do they stay paired, and how well do they work with certain screen readers, and all of that.
The reason I ask is because the Braille Me was coming in around the $500 US price range as well, right, to compete with the Orbit.
Yeah, it is.
So.
It's the only one right now, that we know, because the Orbit seems to be missing.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to ask about that because Orbit research
been missing
was
for 2 years.
Orbit research was there. Did they give any?
They weren't there.
Yeah,
they weren't there.
They actually were. They didn't have a booth,
were they?
but they were there. Yeah, I did speak with them, and I've been exchanging emails with. I just fired off an email this morning to the guy who was there. To ask him more about it, and I sent Ryan the email to try and get him onto the podcast as well.
But yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder what's going on with them.
I don't know what the problem is. I know they're sort of like APH said, because I went to the booth and asked, can I see the Orbit too, and can I see the graffiti, which is the graphical one? Mm-hmm. They said, no, we don't have them at the table, and they had them at the table last time, I'm sure. And then I said, well, why? Well, we're fixing up problems, and that's why we don't have them at the table. I don't know if it's problems with Orbit research or problems with units or I don't know what the problems are, but they were so excited about them, and now they seem to be kind of, I don't know, Steve, you might know more than me. I couldn't get anything else out of them than that.
Well, the only thing I've heard is that the reason we don't have them here in Canada yet is because there were issues with a pin or some pins sticking. And maybe
they
not
were
refreshing.
Sticking when I tested.
And so they
were always sticking. But the unit I have, the last unit I had got, which I still have because I was testing it, they were not sticking. So I'm not sure if they're arguing about price points, if they're arguing about distribution numbers, or if there's some other issue that we don't know.
Yeah.
One issue I heard they had, and that's just a rumor, was that the oil they were using in it to lubricate it didn't like cold climates, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Time will tell.
Need some of that NASCAR high viscosity motor oil.
Yeah.
Well, did anybody see anything there that you just thought was neat?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw a pair of glasses that had they were using it was like virtual reality glasses, similar to Google Glasses, but unlike Google Glasses, they were actually painting the image on your retina with a laser.
I've heard of that. I've heard of this,
and I actually got to put them on and try them, which was kind of funky. I was really impressed with the resolution of it. I didn't think that it would be that high resolution. It's like 1024 by 600, I think.
Now, this has actually some fairly big implications, if I remember correctly, because doesn't this, the lasers or whatever's projecting the image, it's projecting it directly on the retina, so it's bypassing the cornea, right? So for those people with, say, vision problems with something to do with the cornea, this would actually completely bypass that. Am I correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it goes right on past and gets painted directly onto the back of the eye. It's pretty slick. You know, I don't know if it was psychosomatic or not, but I felt like I could feel it.
Wow.
Like it was kind of a weird sensation to have it on. It wasn't the same as, you know, looking at a virtual reality screen. You could see it perfectly clearly, but it almost felt kind of warm.
So was it essentially like a heads up display? Like what was it? What did you see?
It was a heads up display. So you basically had an image that was overlaid over what you were looking at.
That is so freaky.
Yeah.
So it was AR and VR or just VR?
AR.
It was AR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there others there showing AR as well? Because it's been a hot topic this year.
No.
Wearables, no?
No, there really weren't. I mean, there were a bunch of head-worn CCTV systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that seems to be really the hot. I mean, we've been saying that all year. These wearables is the new sexy.
Yeah, and it was surprising that some of the guys who are in that market weren't at CSUN. Cyber Eyes wasn't there.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
And who's the guys who...
Iris Vision?
no, Iris Vision was there.
Really?
eSight was there.
eSight was
And
there.
so was Orcam too.
Orcam.
Yeah. And there was one from Zumax. They had a head worn. Optelec was showing a head worn system. But New Eyes wasn't there.
Really?
Yeah, I actually found
Speaking
out.
of
They were supposed to be showing a new
head-worn
product.
things, I did. They are commercially available, not in Canada yet, but I did buy some shades by Bose. So they are sunglasses, and on the side of the arms, there are speakers in front of your ear. So it's almost like as if you used aftershocks, but you're actually wearing, dark glasses, and you have the speakers. I've loved them. I've only had them a few days. My aftershocks had broken, and I was thinking of getting some more. And then when Jason Fair told me they were there, and they have sensors in them too that eventually with soundscapes and apps, if you turn your head, they're going to be able to know that you did that and tell you what's in front of your face, like based on that. So I find them really cool. They the sound quality is excellent, and they're easy to use, and they're comfortable on my face, and I seem to be able to hear well with the little speakers, in front of your ears. It's not really bone conduction, but I'm liking them a lot. And they're not in Canada, but they'll come soon, I think, to Canada.
And because this is a CSUN program, they weren't actually available at CSUN. But Jason took an $8 Uber ride to go and find a Bose store so he could find it. But they weren't actually at CSUN, although there's certainly a partnership with IRA and the Bose glasses.
And Microsoft had them at times if someone who had them happened to be at the booth, because they were promoting them as well for soundscapes.
But the other device like that too, Kim, Sony had an interesting sound device.
Yes.
I don't know what they called it. But it folded up like a pair of glasses, but you actually wore this thing around your neck and you could Bluetooth your sound into it, and it just sounded like you were sitting in amongst a room full of speakers.
Really?
And then if you wanted privacy, you could pop the earbuds into your ears and just have the sound going directly into your ear and not coming out of this plastic device you're wearing around your neck. It was really quite interesting.
That was
anywhere
cool.
but in Japan for now, but it's coming.
It was cool. I saw that too. That was interesting. But again, it's interesting when companies sort of band together, that IRA and Bose, or that Microsoft and Bose are saying this would be good for this.
Right.
These would be good for soundscapes, or Sony might get together with, someone and say these particular headphones would be great for, I don't know, Nearby Explorer or some app, or Blind Square or something. That to me is interesting. Again, it comes back to that mainstream piece,
Oh, and the other thing that was really interesting too, you guys, was the Nearby Explorer. So APH, is it AP? Yeah, APH have spun off or are about to spin off Nearby Explorer to a for-profit company. Like they're going to run it. It's going to be, like Frontier Computing is to CNIB. It's going to be a for-profit company owned by APH. And they assume that the plan is they'll be able to get at more development dollars in more ways to continue to develop Nearby Explorer. And certainly one of the really big pushes that Nearby Explorer is doing now is this Indoor Explorer. So they're certainly going to be, or appear to be at this point, one of the front runners in the development of indoor wayfinding navigation. So I'm really anxious and excited to see what they might be able to do as that further develops.
They did have the conference space mapped, and I did try it. It would tell me where I was and what was beside me, but again, as usual with indoor navigation, I couldn't find any way to actually plan a route. Like I could know what was beside me, but if I wanted to go to a certain conference room, it wasn't giving me turn by turn, when you need to go here, this is what you do. I guess that's the big barrier still. And, but it was pretty accurate when I had it on. It would say you're beside this ballroom or you're beside this entrance. And that worked okay, but it just couldn't give me any turn-by-turn guidance.
Yeah, there's another company that stood out for me as well, a company called Tech for Freedom. They're out of Barcelona, Spain, and they were showing two products. One of them is called the UFO, which stands for Universal Find One, which is basically a little disc, and it's a little device that you can connect your phone to. And you can set it up to do a bunch of different things. So some of the examples that they used were things like family care. You know, say you're a blind person who's got kids, you could basically take one of these things and stick it in your kid's pocket, and your phone would start to beep if the kid got too far away from you.
Oh, wow.
And you could then holler, "Get your butt back here," or you could potentially press a button on your phone and have the beacon itself start beeping so that you could locate your kid.
Oh, that's brilliant.
They also had the example of you can have the beacon beep as you approach it. So say you're staying in a hotel room and they don't have Braille on the doors, you could just take one of these beacons, put it inside your door, and then as you got close to your room, it would start beeping at you, so you'd know which room you were doing.
What a cool idea. See, if I would have put one of those in my kid's pocket, they would have taken the thing out and put it on the counter somewhere and walked away from it.
Yeah, probably.
So put it on the dog.
I just have a vision of everybody at CSUN putting them with the person they're with, and then all these beacons going off
all these beeps
all over the place.
Yeah. The other another example they had was if you took two of them, you could have them beep at intervals. And the example they used there was for, Spain. Everybody's soccer crazy out there, right? So they have blind soccer. So you could put one on either net just to keep people oriented. And I got to thinking about you, Ryan, and playing blind hockey. How helpful would it have been to know where the net
Where
was?
the boards were.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you over the concussion yet?
I am. Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of their products, and then the other one they had was it's not released yet. It's called One for All Box, and it's like the most Star Trek-y damn thing that I've seen. It's got all of these different sensors built into it, so it does color recognition, it does near field communication for those RFID tags like the pen friend and things like that, where you can stick a sticker on something and identify it.
Right.
It's got a distance proximity sensor on it, so you can judge distances, how far you are from something, and it's very, very accurate for that. It's got the ability to tell you humidity, temperature, ambient light. You can use it as a medical thermometer by sticking it under your arm, for example. It's got a compass built into it. It's got a light source and light intensity detector.
So is this like a wearable, or what would
It's just a little handheld device.
Handheld, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and it'll act as an emergency charger for your smartphone as well.
Ooh, very important.
So, yeah, really, really cool little thing. Comes with 50 of the tags and two beacons to use with it as well.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, it's a neat.
You'll have that in the show notes, so we can go check that out.
You betcha.
Yeah.
I know you talked to the tap keyboard people before on this podcast. They were right beside us, and there were many, many people looking at tap. And I would love a Braille version of the tap if they ever made one, because it makes sense. You wouldn't have to learn different codes. You could just do your Braille on your
That's true.
desk.
Right.
Actually, that is really true.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you guys, I listened to that podcast you guys did when you interviewed her a while back, and gosh, they've got to be like the nicest, most diplomatic, perfect people in the world. We were in the booth right beside them, watching them, and my gosh, they did a great job with everybody at wherever the customer was, whatever they wanted. They were just immensely patient.
Yep.
It was a just a heck of a show to stand beside them and watch.
They were very nice to deal with. I mean, they sent us a demo unit for us to play with and stuff, and very accommodating. Yeah, great people, and it is a really great idea in terms of a device.
Well, and I don't think it would be hard for them to implement, UEB or any Braille code for that matter, because it is customizable. If you don't like, the pattern for the letter J, you can go in and change that pattern. So it would just be a matter of them entering the codes in.
Yeah, but what like Kim and what Jason Fair also talked to them about is to have, 3 of those rings for each hand.
And one for each thumb. Say you had 4.
Yeah.
Well, even the 5, because then you could do enter and delete with your little fingers.
Yeah, I was just going to say
you just have to do it differently, but I think that would be really good.
Well, the tap strap is a set of 5 rings. You wear one on each finger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you just have to have 2 of them. And they do have, there's going to be a big update coming up in the next week or 2. They did announce that to everybody. So there's all kinds of tweaks and things that they've done to increase the efficiency of the device. So look for an update. Firmware update coming up very soon.
Nice.
And I will say on our other side, we're the Dot Watch people, and I have not been, and I am still not impressed with that Braille project at all, really. I don't like the Braille, and they don't really consult blind people in the way they construct these things, I feel. So, yeah. And they weren't interested in talking to us. I asked them, what Braille, formats you could read on the tablet thing that they had, and they didn't know. And I asked them, well, what Braille do you use? Can you change it? Is it contracted, uncontracted, UEB? And they didn't know. They said, oh, we'll have to ask someone and get back to you. So that wasn't too impressive to me. But Steve, I think did you say you liked the little tablet one? Or was it you or someone?
Well, the little tablet, basically they're billing it as a Braille Kindle.
Okay.
It's meant to be an e-reader, so it's 6-dot Braille, no cursor routing, just a little device that you can slap a book onto and read it. And I think it's, what was it, 12 cells? I don't remember. It wasn't.
Yeah, but the panning keys were way above the display. So if they talked to Braille users, I don't think they would have put the panning keys there. I think they would have put them somewhere closer to your hands, because you had to move your hands off every time you changed a line.
Yeah, that was a little odd, and it's almost like they've built the device without ever looking at any other Braille device that's ever been built on the planet.
They did. I sort of think so. I know someone said, the people from Bristol Braille said, they just need to walk down this hall and talk to 5 people, and they'll tell them, because they said the Braille is actually nice. They said if they just talk to 10 people here, they'd have a great device. They'd just have a really good device. But anyway,
let's keep our eyes.
And then just to because that was where we spent quite a bit of our time, was in the exhibit hall at the booth. We were there with Markido Inc. It's Markido, and they've produced a plug-in for PowerPoint that, if you're a blind person receiving a PowerPoint by email from a boss or a professor or whatever, when we take a PowerPoint presentation and try and save it in Word so that we can get access to it and use it with our screen reader, very often you're only getting a fraction of the information that's there. So what Markido Inc. has done is they've created this plugin called Engage that you can install on your computer in seconds. And when you open up a PowerPoint presentation in PowerPoint, you just simply do a quick Shift Control T, and it converts it to RTF. It pulls out
Shift Control R, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those two. And,
I think it's Shift Control R.
And it converts it to and saves it as an RTF or opens it up in an RTF file that gives you all the info that was in the PowerPoint. It pulls any tables and graphics and that sort of thing, and just creates a really usable, readable PowerPoint very quickly. And also for the content creators, you can run, for the paid version, you can run it through an accessibility checker that'll tell you where all of the accessibility issues are in your PowerPoint, so that you can fix it before you actually send it out there. So they've got an interesting little app that's free to us end users, but lots of our government departments federally are using that app now to make sure that their PowerPoints go out the door accessible.
Man, that's good.
And now it's a Canadian company from Ottawa.
Well,
Yeah, and he brought us with him, a bunch of us, so we were grateful for that. There were also a lot of consulting tables of people consulting or helping people make websites. There was a lot of those there.
Yeah, lots of accessibility, just general accessibility companies. Let's make your documents accessible. Let's make your website accessible. Those sorts of things.
And that's good. I mean, and that's likely a result of, the movement that we've seen with businesses that, accessibility has become a hot topic for a lot of businesses. Yeah. So that's good. That's all excellent news.
I do want to touch on, Rob, you referenced wearables a little earlier. Is there anything new going on with items like the Buzz Clip?
I saw the second generation Buzz Clip. I think Albert saw it as well. I hadn't seen it before. I'd only seen the first one. I really liked it. It's much more sturdy. It has the cane mount, so you could actually attach it to your cane. It had also a handle that you could hold if you wanted to just hold it in your hand, as opposed to clipping it on. I didn't try it, but I was impressed with its durability. It felt much more durable than the first version did.
Right.
I thought it was quite good. I was impressed, but I didn't test it out, so I don't know about its capabilities. But it seems that they've thought that through quite well. Did you test it, Albert?
Well, I played around with it at the booth a little bit. I would love to have something like that, but I don't know. Gosh, single purpose little device like that at $250 is just rich. That's just really rich.
Have either of you tried the CSUN Band?
Not yet.
No.
I will.
I have one that Ruel gave me, but I haven't. It's been such a terrible winter that I haven't played with it. Now it's starting to get a bit nicer. I think I'm going to make sure I spend some time with the CSUN Band.
We've heard rumblings of a product called WeWalk, which is it's a smart cane. You guys, did they happen to be at CSUN? Did you notice them?
No, that's the teenage girl, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, that's right.
But what I did hear from someone who looked at it, like a mobility person, said at the moment they didn't feel that it was durable enough for heavy use. It might have been developed thinking that blind people didn't whack their canes around as much as we do. But I don't know. No, they weren't there. Or did you see, Steve? You didn't see them.
I didn't see them. I just heard them talked about. That was it.
Oh, is that right? So it is getting some buzz, eh?
It is getting some buzz, yeah.
We should really see if we can, Ryan, we should get them on the show.
We're now looking at June, so...
Yeah, well, get to work, buddy.
Hey, April and May are booked.
We're so popular.
That's right.
Good for you.
So,
well, I don't know, Steve, did anybody walk up to you at CSUN and say, "Oh my God, Steve Barkley, I recognize your voice"?
No, absolutely nobody. I did have that once at CSUN. A guy from the southern U.S. went, "Hey, you're the Mountbatten guy," because I recorded a bunch of videos for the government of Alberta on the Mountbatten Brailer, and I guess he was a HumanWare rep, and he referred people to those videos all the time.
That's funny.
So.
Well, you just wait. Next year we'll have a booth. Me and Ryan will do a live stream. We'll all do a live show from the floor of
show
CSUN.
floor.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, just that whole voice recognition, because I do listen also to the Blind Bargains podcast, and so I'm standing there in the garden, one of the eateries in the hotel. I was standing at the end of the line waiting for my food, and I heard this voice. I thought, Joe Steinkamp, is that you? So there he was, him and Ricky standing there waiting for their food. So we
nice
got to chat with them a little bit, and then the same with JJ Badow. I was checking out the Canute at APH, and he was standing there with his hands all over the thing. So got a little chat with those two, podcasters out there.
Was there anybody there showing haptics?
Not that I
Buzz Clip,
noticed.
but that's somewhat.
No, but not like the haptic
But
shoes or
haptic
these
touch
haptic
screens,
whatever.
haptic shoes, haptic canes.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, there was.
Did anyone else see haptics?
Yes. Hang on. Let me just find my notes
I
here.
didn't notice any, but Steve.
You know, because that's been another buzzword in the last year as well, right?
What was the name of that company? Hang on a sec. I did put them in my notes.
I don't know. I just feel like they still really need to crack the code on that.
Yep.
Somebody really
Yeah,
needs to come out
yeah.
and
You're right.
really,
We're waiting for that next big revolution.
Yeah, we are.
and it could
It's
be
got to be just around the corner, but we just don't know exactly what it's going to look like.
That's right.
Well, you know what? Maybe I didn't. There was a company. They were European. I don't remember exactly where they were from, but they had they basically had taken tablets, a tablet and a phone, and they had overlaid it with a bumpy surface. So they put all these bumps all across the surface in a grid pattern. And then they had a bunch of software that they developed for it, and you could do things like throw a graphic up on it, and then if you ran your finger across the bumps, wherever the graphic intersected the bumps, it would make a noise, and then
Interesting.
you could have a decreasing or increasing noise depending on what direction you were going or what color it had, or so it was meant to be kind of a graphing mapping sort of solution,
Right.
But it was not very fine resolution for starters, so you couldn't get a lot of detail onto it at once. It was an interesting idea, but I don't think an idea that is necessarily going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it sounds a bit clunky.
Yeah.
Well, I know, even just a few years ago, we talked to that European company, Ryan, about haptic touchscreens and the idea of that, they were trying to develop, a touchscreen that had the ability to, where you could feel raised edges on an actual touchscreen through haptic simulation.
Yeah, they were using the vibration as well. So if you basically had the tablet sitting on a table and you ran across the haptics for the tablet, didn't really end up being all that meaningful. They weren't very strong. But if you had your hand on the bottom of it, you could feel it a lot easier and a lot more distinctly. But
I think it has a ways to go yet before.
I'd say so. Yeah. It was essentially though just a repurposed tablet.
Right.
But it really sounds like in a lot of ways, this mirrors the mainstream tech shows, in the sense that what Albert was saying earlier is that a lot of it's just fine tuning current technology, right. Second generations or third generations of different products, as opposed to anything really, really big that's going to really set the world on fire. With the exception, I would say, is the Canute sounds like it's poised to really make a big splash.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's also a device that's been around for a couple of years, so even that is really being tweaked. We've known about it, we've heard about it, some people have seen it. Now it's really about to, be sent out to the world to see, what people will do with it.
Yeah. I think also they did it right in that they've been developing it for years and testing it, beta testing different prototypes, first just in England near where they are, and then gradually in other places. So it just goes to show you that you really need to take your time and do the right thing with it, with something like that, something so new.
Yeah, I think he said they've spent something like $4 million so far developing that product.
Wow.
There's been a lot of money that's gone into bringing it to this point.
Okay. Well, anything else, Steve? What else did you see?
Saw the new head-worn system from ZoomX, the name of which is now completely vanished from
A-Site?
A-Site. Is that it?
Yes, A-Site.
A-Site. So apparently they're trying to get in alphabetically ahead of E-Site.
So is it pretty similar to the E-Site or the
number one selling point for it is it's cheap. It's considerably cheaper than any of the other head-worn systems that are out on the market, but that comes with some trade-offs. The screen isn't as bright as some of the other ones out on the market. The field of view isn't as good as some of the other ones out on the market. The one thing it did have that I thought was really interesting was they had one unique feature I've not seen on another device, and that was edge detection. So when you switch to the edge detection mode, like Rob, you're sitting on a futon right now. So there's visible edges to that, like the edges of the frame itself, where the blanket tops out along the back of the futon. Well, what it would do is it would draw white lines around all of those edges.
Oh, no way!
And it would put it onto a black inverse image, so you could pick out all of the edges of stuff. So if you're having trouble with contrast, it'll do things like, help you find the edges of stairs, the edges of tables, things like that. I haven't seen it done on any other device, and I thought that was a unique feature that it offered, and it might be something that could be attractive to people who are having difficulty with, finding, edges. So.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a picture of it right now, and it's interesting. It's an interesting design. From everything else, which more or less it's either like a VR. All the other devices, it's either like a VR headset or it's smart glasses. This kind of looks like, it almost looks like those sun visors that you see people wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside that sun visor, there's two little virtual reality screens. And, like I said, it doesn't have a great field of view, but it is vastly cheaper than, it's like a quarter of the price of some of the other ones that are out there.
Now, and it does the same types of things. It will, all the standard types of things, like it'll zoom, it'll
magnify.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. The other thing I found out was, what the hell's her name? I've lost him again. The head-worn system we used to carry.
Geordie?
Not Geordie. No, the other one.
Iris Vision, eSight.
No, the one we had at Aroga.
Orcam.
New Eyes.
New Eyes. Okay.
New Eyes. So the other thing I found out is New Eyes. We saw an announcement that they had a new product, a new visor type of product, similar to the Iris Vision, but with even a wider field of view than the Iris Vision. Well, I found out one of the reasons why they've gone to that system is because the manufacturer that made the original headset system that they were using, a company called ODG, they went bankrupt.
Oh.
So they're not able to get that headset system anymore. So that's unfortunate,
right?
Because it was kind of a cool system. It was a full-on Android device. It had all kinds of potential.
The new Eyes product?
No, well, the new Eyes product, I don't know much about the new Eyes product.
Yeah, because that one supposedly had a 108 degree field of view.
Yeah, which is wider than even the Iris Vision, which is up until that point, I believe, was the widest field of view on the market. So yeah, I'm really, really quite interested in seeing that one, but I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Yeah, it's surprising they weren't down at CSUN.
I did run into Regina, who used to work at Enhanced Vision Systems and was working for them. I don't know if she is anymore. I just saw her, gave her a hug, and buggered off to a meeting. But so if she's still with them, she was at least there and wandering about. But they didn't have a booth.
So, closing thoughts to the room. What was your impression of this year's event as opposed to other years?
I think the venue was a little bit confusing. It wasn't a fantastic layout for this type of event, because getting from the lobby through to the exhibit area was a little dodgy. It was a fairly narrow hallway that was always crowded, so getting through there with a cane was probably pretty annoying when sessions were letting out, because sessions were in that hallway as well. But CSUN seemed a little smaller to me this year than it's been in years past. The exhibit area didn't seem to be as large as it used to be. And maybe that's just my impression, and maybe that's just, a optical Belushi, as my friend says, from, the different room sizes. But it seems smaller.
The one thing
I think I heard that too, Steve, that, in years past there's been 160 or 180 exhibitors. They were down around 120, 140 or something. This year it was Certainly my impression was that, how much more we should be calling it an assistive technology conference, not as much an accessibility, or we need to blend both words in there, accessible and assistive technology. So it surprised me that it was so heavily weighted on the mainstream side, but I'm also quite pleased with that, because I think that's all, myself as a blind person, that's all I want, is to be able to spend the same money as everybody else and have access.
Yeah, bingo.
So I was impressed with some of that. And yet, thankfully, we still have all of that assistive stuff, the third-party stuff that does give us access where the original manufacturer didn't. So it was just a really nice blend, and I really enjoyed it as a first time out. I think I'm just as anxious to go back again as I was to get there this first time.
Yeah, me too. I really loved it. I agree that getting around was a bit difficult, but I agree. I did love it. I would love to see something like it in Canada.
Yeah.
I know we're a big country, but I would love to work on, if anyone wants to work on organizing something, I would love to help work on that, because I just think about the people, and we talked about this at one point, how many blind people can afford to go to something like this? 1% maybe, or something. And also, I just would like to see something here in Canada, a big one, just one big one with workshops and vendors and everything, and mainstream and that. I would like to, that's what sort of left me with that when I was finished with CSUN.
Sponsored by Canadian Assistive Technology.
That's right. Get on it, Ryan.
Me?
Yeah.
Talk to the owner.
Well, you're the scheduler. You go create it.
He's got the money.
All right. So if
does he? He does? Wait, whoa.
No. I've got a solution. I've got a solution. If every listener to AT Banter comes and buys a Braille note taker from me,
we'll have a tech conference next year.
Yeah, we'll be a sponsor.
Wait, did you say that if every person that listens to the podcast?
Yeah.
Buys a those of us who don't read Braille, do we have to buy one?
Yeah.
Can your mom afford that? Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Well, Albert and Kim, we want to thank you so much for helping us out and talking about CSUN today.
Thank you so much. We're always happy to help you guys. And I have to go and run a GTT now. So I have to stay awake a little longer.
Well, listen, you guys got anything to plug? Anything coming up that...
GTT National Call on Wednesday will be CSUN.
Yeah, the show won't be up by Wednesday. We have a beginners
call next Tuesday afternoon. We started some beginners calls. Maybe I'll let Albert plug that, because I do have to run and make sure the room and everything is okay for our meeting at 6:00. So if you don't mind, I'll just duck out and Albert can tell you about the stuff.
Yeah, thanks Kim, so much for joining us.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, as Kim mentioned, because we've been doing the national conference call monthly on the second Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so it's 4 p.m. our time, we've decided to do one during the day for beginners, trying to just help people get those who get a little bit... when we get going, a bunch of us who know tech and have used technology for a long time, we can kind of lose beginners pretty quickly. They roll their eyes in the back of their head and they get lost in the jargon. So we've decided to step it back a bit and offer a monthly call on the, the third Tuesday of every month, but during the day. So it's like 11 o'clock Western or Pacific time. I'm just trying to help people get that, who are just getting started and get lost in the jargon. The other thing I want you guys to think about too at AT Banter, at Canadian Assistive Tech, the big Toronto Experience Expo that our Ian White and the GTT Toronto group have done for the last 4 years. It was a really nice big show this year. They had 46 exhibitors. It was just a really cool energy in the room. I was there on February the 2nd for that event. And one of the things I've said to CCB over the last couple of years, watching the development of Ian's Experience Expo there in Toronto, is that we need something like that in the West. So the plan is that February 1st, 2020, we may very well do our own Experience Expo in Vancouver at the same time that they're hosting theirs in Toronto. So keep an eye on that. We'll be coming to knock on your door to see if you guys want to participate.
Well, absolutely.
Cool. Sounds awesome.
Color us there.
Yeah. And any advice you guys might have on good venues in the area. I'm looking at the Collingwood Neighborhood House as a potential. It's close to SkyTrain and and a SkyTrain station that the blind folks in the Lower Mainland already know quite well. So.
That's right.
Listen, come to the Guitar Dungeon.
Yeah.
That's a great venue.
We're hoping we need a bigger venue than that for our first one.
Well, you've never been here. You don't know how big it actually is.
You're right.
It's huge in here.
Dungeon, after all.
That's right. It's huge.
I can't even see Steve.
That's the glare off my forehead, of course.
That could be. Yeah. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, it's Newfoundland St. Patrick's Day, but
Yeah.
Good enough.
Well, thanks.
I'll drink to that.
All right. Well, thanks again, sir. We'll make sure we'll include the GTT links and stuff in the show notes as well. And hopefully everything that we've talked about, if I can track everything down. We talked about it a lot. So I have my work cut out for me.
Good job. They've given the right guy the job.
You betcha.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, we will let you go so you can get on with your day. But thanks again, and let's have you on again soon.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert.
Take care, man.
What a whirlwind.
Yeah.
That sounds like-
I'm really glad that we had them join this one and it not just have been me, because everybody takes something different away from a big conference like that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some people go and all they do are just the sessions. They don't even go into the exhibits.
Right.
Some people do, like me, I just do the exhibits. I only went to one session today and I wasn't technically, at the show, and I wasn't technically supposed to be in there because I didn't pay for the shows. But it was David McDonald, and he was summarizing the Accessible Canada Act. So.
Oh, really? Oh, you went to that?
I did, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was good.
That's a whole show we could talk about that.
We've got it coming up next month.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a good one to be at, and just to get a better sense of the act and what it means and where it leads from here. Excuse me.
Okay, well, let me just check the notes here and see if we missed anything that I wanted to talk about.
Nope, we're done. See you next week. Bye.
Oh, Ryan.
You silly bugger.
We didn't talk about the Zoom Max, but that's okay. You didn't mention that. But
Oh, yeah, I was going to.
That's okay. Well, we can leave something for next week.
Well, I can talk about it now, and you can just splice it in wherever.
Ooh, sneaky. Sneaky. Look at you. Well, Ryan, any other closing thoughts? What do you think?
1 year. I've been in this industry almost 20 years. 1 year, I'm getting to CSUN. I'm going to go one day.
Well,
one day.
Let's make that one of our goals for next year, because I would love to be able to take both of you down with me next year.
I don't want to fly with Ryan. Can I find a different flight?
You can.
We'll put you on a Delta flight.
No, that's right. I could not. I can't even go through the podcast without peeing. I don't know. If I was a dog, I would not
just limit your liquid intake. Yeah. It's only a 3-hour flight down there.
I enjoy coffee too much. Is it 3 hours? Is that how much?
If you get a direct, yeah.
Okay. Well, hey,
Rob.
You responding to hey now?
Steve.
I didn't even.
Where can people find us?
Okay, sorry. Hold on. There we go. Hey, Ryan.
No. Hey, Rob.
What? You Steve. Can't do that.
Hey, Steve.
Stop it. Steve. Stop this is what happens when we record over an hour and a half. Everyone gets punchy.
That's right.
Where can people find us, sir?
atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire at cowbell@atbanter.com. Where else can they find us, guys, fellas?
Well, how about Facebook? We're on Facebook, aren't we?
Yep. Still.
How about Twitter? We're on Twitter, aren't we?
Still there, too.
How about Instagram? Are we on Instagram?
Yep, we're still there, too.
Are we on Google Plus?
Yep,
No.
we're still there.
Google Plus doesn't exist.
Is anybody
Have you
paying-
removed us? If not, we're still
I don't
there.
think we have to. Have they removed the platform yet?
I don't know.
I will probably on MySpace as well.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably still up.
and Reddit and
Yep.
Pinterest. And,
Yeah, it's right. Reddit, Pinterest.
there you
We're
go.
all over the place. Well, we're kind of on Reddit. We're dipping our toes into Reddit.
There you go.
You got to watch it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. That's everything.
That's it.
I think that's a show.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening in, and we'll see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.